Futter, kører gennem natten til den gamle månemand med ild og røg i hatten. Futter, vender nok tilbage fra den gamle månemand med soda, vand og kage.
Yes, it's back to Greenelm Station. It's been a long time since I last posted something on YouTube. There has been something called COVID, and we had lockdown here in Italy where I have my layout. I couldn't go to any of the shops to get the materials I needed to get on with my work on the model railway. So for quite a long time it was just standing there. Then they allowed us to go to some of the shops, and I managed to get some brown paint, and I could paint the baseboard at least. I wanted to get the burnt amber that everybody is recommending. Couldn't find that here in Italy, but I found a paint called chocolate, and I thought, well, that sounds very nice. So here it is, my chocolate baseboard. When eventually the lockdown was lifted, for family reasons we had to go to Northern Europe, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Wales and Denmark, and that took us a long time to get back to Italy eventually. The good thing was that I managed to get to the shops in the Netherlands and Denmark to buy some of the stuff I needed. Bad thing was that it took us almost half a year before we were back in Italy. So what you see now is what I've been doing after our return here. I took a picture in Denmark and I had it printed in the Netherlands, and have fixed it to two boards that I've attached directly to the frame of the table, not to the wall, so it is supposedly movable if I should ever use it for an exhibition. I had this old steam engine, 20 years old, and of course it's analog, and I thought it was a pity not to give it a chance to run. So I've decided to establish one analog line, where the people can go for a Sunday ride in a vintage train. But when I was in the Netherlands, I also purchased a new shunter engine, a Dutch one, which is a very nice, lights forward and behind. It is prepared for DCC, so it was quite easy to install the decoder, and it runs perfectly on straight and level. However, it doesn't seem to be heavy enough to pull the goods wagons up the hill. As you'll see. Then there's this little German, this is a Fleischmann German cargo shunter. Very fast running, it's a Speedy Gonzales, and it also carries the goods wagons beautifully on straight and level. But will it manage to get them up the hill? Let's have a look. And no, same thing. Stops here, wheels are turning, but it's not moving. So we turn to the good old diesel engine. This is Pico, P-I-K-O. It is equipped with a sound decoder. And let's see, will it do it? Moving up the hill, coming to the dangerous point, and just continuing all the way up to the top of the hill with all the goods wagons, past the church, up to the pot with the paintbrushes, and down again. Perfect. Now I wanted to make sure that the lights in the houses was not flickering, so I managed to get a proper transformer producing 12 volts direct current, and that has now been installed in those houses, the supermarket and the church, as well as the railway station, Greenelm Station. I also decided to establish a pond, a village pond, so I dug out a circle in the board, painted it in the appropriate color, and then I'm covering it with clear varnish. Well, you may think it doesn't look very clear. However, when it dries, it is completely transparent. This, I think, is probably the 6th or 7th layer of varnish that I'm giving it in order to make it look more water-like. Ponds are still water, there are no waves, and there's usually a lot of vegetation underneath, so it's almost completely black when you look at it. There are some stones along the side of it, and of course some vegetation. And for that purpose I use these knock weeds, or whatever you call them, that you pick out and fold and put in the board. It's very fiddly, as most things are when you are in N scale. And unfortunately I'm not terribly impressed with it, because once I had put them in the varnish, they folded out again, and it doesn't really look the way I had expected. Anyway, here we go. Now I've been out walking in the Lake District, as it were, in Italy, and picking up some sand, and I took it through different size sieves. So I've ended up with stones that are large, some that are medium size, and some smaller ones which I can use for ballasting. I also picked up some sand on the beach in Denmark, which is much lighter than the Italian one, and some very fine sand from Sahara, souvenir from Egypt, which might be useful for footpath or similar. But I mostly use the smaller type of the Italian gravel. And this is a low-cost method. I've just folded a piece of carton and just carefully knock at it to get the stones down, like next to the railway line. I'm not quite sure whether I'll ever be able to get the rails up again. Now, after putting it down, I sprinkled it with alcohol. I couldn't find any isopropyl alcohol, but in Italy you can buy pure alcohol, 95%, for drinking, for making limoncello, and it works fine on the railway. And then I give it some few drops of the white glue, diluted with water. I use about 1/4 glue and 3/4 of water, and a drop of dishwashing liquid. And it just easily goes down between the stones in the ballast. And when it's dry, everything's there. I invested in this static king from Woodland Scenics, and I'm trying to blend different types of grass that is from Nock to get the kind of color I'm looking for. I think one thing I've learned is that you should use the same color of grass throughout your layout, not mixing it next to each other. It doesn't look very good. But this is my first try, so I'm learning lessons from it. I use the Nock grass glue and spread it carefully on the area to be covered. Well, carefully, maybe not the right word. I'm just putting it down. It doesn't really matter. When it dries, it is invisible, so it doesn't matter. It gets a bit up on the side. For the sake of the camera, I'm using my left hand here. It's the advantage of being ambidextrous. Once it's covered with the glue, I place the anchor of the static grass and switch on. It has a battery, 9-volt battery in it, and then I just spread the grass. This is, of course, the bottom layer of grass. I can always add some plants or flowers or bushes, whatever. But this is the start. Once you've done that, remember to switch off the static king and then vacuum the area. Right, there you have it. Let's just finish with a few scenes of the rolling stock.